Welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where I break verbal bread with a quote-unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponent. Available to watch before the match on Patreon early on the second and third tier. It will be available to the public people. Appreciate you the day of the match. So you got to enjoy before it's a little pressure. The best part about our Patreon is you get the episodes plenty of time to enjoy and relax in. We don't do any of like the cuts and edits. So, if we say anything extra spicy, maybe we shoot some shots at some people, that stays on Patreon. That's the same. The politician crunk is in effect this season, except for on Patreon. So that's why you got to pay for it. Manchester City, they face Brighton after the international break on the 21st of October. The Seagulls take a little visit from the beachy coast to travel to the Fortress de Etihad in Manchester. To find out what we can about our next opponent in the Premier League, I've brought on from Albion Assess, Shady Gang, give it up for Soni. How's it going? Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Shady
no.
Gang. How are you? How's it going?
I'm,
Welcome.
thank you, thank you, thank you so much for inviting me. This is actually my first non-Albion podcast appearance I'm doing, so I'm very
Wow.
excited to be branching out to other different teams and having the ability to talk to everyone.
Yes. Well, first off, I see you. You're like, hey, we're in the competition. I'm going to grab my Europa gear. So first off, I see that.
Always.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Uh, However, we got connected with Albion SS. You guys have been stand out people, have connected us with multiple other clubs and connections. That is a big thing with us is collaboration. Yes, we don't cheer for the same club, but in the end, we're going to have to play each other. It'd be good to help each other out, build dimension to our shows. Yeah, I am personally trying to destroy the word, well, separate. I don't want to, and this, people who listen to Shady Game, they're used to me just being like, all right, tangent. I'm so over the word content. Like this clip that I'm using, I already know what I'm about to say, so I'm going to clip this and whatever. This will be used for social media. That is content. But this show, this episode that we will be showing and releasing is not content. It is a show that just like a podcast is a form of listening. I I get very upset and I feel like maybe what this WGA strike should have did was explain more of the differences because that was a lot of their problem was separating and getting paid for their rights. And now we just need to help us average dumb people understand the differences of things. So I'm tired of everybody calling everything content. Everything is not content. And some of your
Right,
content
everything.
isn't good.
Right. Everything is not content. Everything
Ah,
should, like there's a difference between curated stuff, like actual hard work,
yeah,
and then there's stuff that is known as content. And people like will use the word content for everything.
content over
Like
everything.
like I could make a tweet, content. I could make like, a piece of artwork, content. Like it's not content. It should be like actual like, hey, this is a video that I made. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
let's
this is
separate
something
stuff.
that I worked on. Yeah,
Ugh.
let's do some of that stuff. What are we doing?
Because we got people out here working hard for our stuff, and I dare you call it content. One of our phrases every season? I come up with a new phrase, and ours this season is "We're making art over here." Capitalize the A.
Oh,
We are
oh,
artists.
that's good.
Thank you.
That is real good. I need to start using that.
Feel free. That's what I'm saying. We're artists over here. There's some people who are, they're just making shows and they're talking about stuff and their stats and blah 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 blah. But nah, over here, baby, we making art. We want to make people feel things, think. We're trying to provoke feeling, growth, evolution. Try more, try harder. We're relying on Twitter, X, whatever. Man, there was a show I watched. I was super excited to see the show. premiere, and all they did is talk about Twitter the entire time. I was like, bro, is this what you're gonna be doing from now on? Is just talking about Twitter and the tweets that people are saying, but also not saying the people because you don't want to. It was just like it was just gossipy. It was
That's
sassy.
horrible.
It was grown men being sassy. I was like, what is this? um, okay, let's get back on football. We're here to talk about Brighton. We got a fantastic guest. Thank you again for coming on. I'd like to start with the transfer moves over the summer. And not many teams in the Premier League make splashes like Brighton. I love the template that Brighton uses. I have said on our show, full transparency, that I do have a looming feeling of trepidation when it comes to your model that you use. Before we get to the moves made by the club, since I have you on, I want to have this discussion. The club realistically, how can they realistically survive and thrive in the Premier League, buying low and selling high on your best players every season? And I understand that the Moises Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, Cucurella, you dodged the bullet with him though. So I mean, that's a good example. But like Busuma, Sanchez, those are amazing players that you could have right now. Yes, you have a new batch, but there's inconsistency. I mean, you saw it earlier this season, uh, especially with the more matches and the competition. How do you trust a whole new batch of younglings every season to lead your team?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those points where, first off, I'm a baseball player first and foremost, and so I understand like younger teams and older teams and how they're able to match up in the postseason and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a fine line that you're straddling, right? Like the model that Brighton has is always like bringing fresh new players in and trying to develop them the best that they can, whether it's through loans, whether it's through like literally putting them out on the field and going, just go for it. Um, Fortunately, we have a great owner who is very much in the analytical space. And so he has his own algorithms. He has like, he basically has a team that kind of goes through all the players in the world and just scouts them out, takes a look at them, and then just decides, hey, we're going to take a chance on this person because they're doing really well, like statistically. And you know, some don't make sense and some do make sense, but we trust the system, we trust the algorithm, we trust our owner, and then on top of that, we trust RDZ, we trust Roberto De Zerbi
Mm-hmm.
with that algorithm that uh, Tony Bloom has and Star Lizard and all the stuff that goes with it. That's how we found Roberto De Zerbi. Like we already have people lined up ready to go, which is the crazy part. So, say for example, like if we lose Enciso, like randomly in the season, he goes to a different team, and he's a great guy. I love Enciso and I hope he stays for years to come. But say, for example, he goes to a different team in the transfer season. There's already someone else in the pipeline that the team is already looking at. And the same thing goes with De Zerbi. Like a lot of people have always commented, at least to me, that like, hey, if we're not doing transfers right, if we don't get the players that he's listed, he's gonna go, you know, and that's our number one concern. Is like if he's happy, we're happy. But if he's not happy, we already know what's gonna happen. We
Mm-hmm.
already have a million teams trying to scout all of our players out. Like Chelsea's always sending like scouts to our field and seeing how we play. And the same thing goes with like the Italian teams too. Like they're over here trying to, you know, say, hey, we want De Zerbi. Like he's on our short list. And we're just like, no, no, you're not taking him. But in the random case that like somebody important to us leaves, right? We already have people lined up. It's just a matter of whether or not they will say yes. It's whether or not they will say no. It's all up in the air. But from the almost year and a half that I have been watching the team, um, it is a very good system. I know that loans are definitely one of the things that we use to help develop players. Like we'll loan them out, we'll put it back in. But some people are just Premier League ready, and that takes time to sort through.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the nuances of how the model works still.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
still trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And that is why I left the question to being like, how do you as a fan trust that the process every single season? Because yeah, it makes sense. And being Amex is your sponsor, I know that's the home of Brighton, but that was also something that I learned. I was like, wait, what? That makes no sense, but also it makes all sense. That's great to have that financially, like as a sponsor to help you continuously grow. Um, by you making these large sales, that also helps the money that you're able to spend that you really haven't had to because you're able to spend the gross profits that you're making from players you're buying for 7 to 20 million euros. It's beautiful to see. Sharpie Charlie on our show, he loves his numbers, he loves his stats. And Brighton, from the beginning of our show, he was just like, look, I love Brighton. Like what they do, the return of investment they make, it's stupid. He's like, it's every drug dealer's dream. Like it truly is just to just watch the money and people just keep paying. And when you set that expectation and you keep getting away with it, I don't mean to sound like this slight, but people are paying those prices. So you can't really question it.
Right. I
It's
mean,
just who they are.
I think the best example for this would be like the Caicedo saga, which
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you right now, as a Brighton fan and being really in tune with Brighton Twitter, that was a painful 3 months to experience. Actually, half the year, if you really think about it, because it started in January
Yeah.
where Caicedo was like, I want to go to Arsenal. And everyone's like, what? That's okay, sure. But at the same time, we were on our way to qualifying for Europe
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, we're not letting you go. And the story, and I don't consider this a story, I consider it a rumor, was that he got told that he will get sold in the summer. And so I guess that was like the way to say, I don't think they ever made that deal, but we won't go there. And then summer comes around and Chelsea's like, hey, we want to pay this guy. We want to get this guy. And the club was like, hey, we're going to sell this guy for £100 million. And it was the highest valuation. Everyone's like, oh, that's not worth it. And we set that so that way people wouldn't go after him. And guess what? Chelsea did. And
They
they
still
kept
did.
hounding us. Like, they kept hounding us. They kept hounding our Twitter. They kept harassing the fans. Like, I would say something Chelsea related, and then I would just get 20 tweets about, like, how we're a small club, how we're keeping them hostage, we're paying them £3,000 a week. It was horrible. Like there are two or three Brighton Twitter accounts that were literally just day after day going after like the Chelsea fans because they would just every single tweet, where's Caicedo? Free Caicedo. Like, let him out. You're keeping him hostage. You know, you're the worst club in all the Premier League. Like, what are you doing? It was, it was, it was so toxic. And so
Wow.
even like the Brighton Twitter accounts, like the news accounts, would say something, and they would just be like, "Okay, this is what happened. This is what's happening right now." 5 minutes later, here's an update. All the Chelsea fans would swarm in. So I'm happy that it's over, but it was the most painful 6 months of our lives because he wanted to go. Apparently, he threw like a tantrum, was telling people at like an award show, like, hey, I want to go to Chelsea. Like, he ended up like packing up his locker, going up to London and staying with his agent until they
Mm-hmm.
signed the thing. And like, Liverpool was in the mix. And we were like, okay, cool. Let's let Liverpool sign it because they offered more money. They have a more stable project. Chelsea's over here like throwing money at things, not knowing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, okay, cool. If Liverpool wants him, he has Alexis McAllister, he has Jurgen Klopp, like everything's fine. But he just said, no, I want to go to Chelsea instead. And Chelsea was like, fine, we'll even pay up more money for him to go. And so they ended up doing that. So keep in mind, we'll set the tone for our numbers. It's whether or not they pay them or not. And clearly
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea was like, I don't care what it takes. We're going to take them. So now look at
Only
him.
Bucks.
Yeah. Freaking now look at him. Where is Caicedo right now?
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
I just think it's rich last season. Chelsea fans calling y'all a small club while they're sitting in 12th place. I don't know. It's just crazy how the gall of Chelsea fans, and that's just how they are. But it's like you guys really haven't been relevant. Pep gave you a Champions League. You should be more appreciative. Uh, you were able to get rid of Mason Mount, and he off of big money because of the one goal he scored. I don't know. I guess they might be straightening things out, but it's no different than Raheem wanting to go to Chelsea. I mean, honestly, I understood that for him because it was playing time. The feel of Chelsea matches his skin tone a little bit more. I understood that, but like, I mean, honestly, it's the same thing about Cole Palmer. But he was going to get his chance at City, and it was coming, and especially with what's going on right now, he'd probably be starting every match. He's doing fine at Chelsea now. It's just I don't understand these players. Where yeah, you could have went to Liverpool. That makes a little bit more sense. Arsenal even would have made more sense than Chelsea. You just want to be out there with the grind. You want to be with your homies. I get it. It's like Chelsea just looks like a vibe. Like when you see all those players, they all got their fun braids and stuff. The drip is great. Like it looks like a fun squad there. But y'all ain't winning anything anytime soon. So it's just have
No,
fun.
no, absolutely not. And to this day, it's so funny to keep seeing Chelsea fans in like just the club's tweets, just going small club. And everyone's like, why do you have the notifications on? You won the battle. Go
Seriously.
home. Go back to
Seriously.
your like 12, 14 place club. Leave us alone. We have nothing to do with you. And they
Yeah,
try to
you,
force a rivalry so bad. And so we just kind of go, okay, cool. And we just boo Chelsea every time that they show up now. Like we gave McAllister this past weekend like a great applause. Like
mhm.
Zerbi came and like gave him a hug and was like, yo, like cheer for this man. And everyone started cheering for him. And then on Twitter, everyone's like, are we giving the same thing to Caicedo? We're like, hell no. We're going to boo the shit out of him.
Yeah,
He
no, McAllister
deserves
did his
it.
thing. Yeah, McAllister, he was great. He just kept his head down, and even at Liverpool, I feel like he's not really a loud person. He seems very low key, and I think that's why he was also uh, linked to City at a moment. And I honestly would have loved him there because he is a grinder. He would have fit Pep's whole technically gifted, hard worker, has no problem doing a technical whoa uh a hard foul when it's needed. I was gonna try to use a tactical foul. There we go. He's had never has a problem with a tactical foul. Early mornings. I was like, man, it's there. I'll close my tongue. Tactical foul. Yes, because ever Fernandinho. I mean, I know tactical fouls have been around for a while, but Ferna, he really made an art of that, and we're still missing that player on our club that can tactically foul a player and get away with it. And I know football's changing and maybe that's not really a thing anymore, but I can't wait to find out who that player on our club will be this time. All right, so players. Let's talk about Roberto De Zerbi. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about your manager. Pep is a huge fan of him. Even in saying they share the same best friend. I don't remember what the guy's name is, but that's how they know each other. They share good friends. What can you tell me about Roberto? Is who he is, how he is, because he seems like a cool dude. He looks pretty young, honestly, which is great to see. Means and his evolution, his style, I love as a City fan. We play beautiful football, I believe, and you guys, you're we're more on the pragmatic side of the style that when we play a similar style, you guys run at teams, play at teams, almost fearless, and I love that. So could you tell me a little bit more about?
Yeah. So Zerbi, funny enough, is always about high risk and high reward. That's his thing. He's always possession based. He's using the goalies in the back to kind of do the short little like ball type things. Um, he's very honest brutally honest at some points. He has no problems telling people like, "Hey, we're doing bad," or "Hey, we're doing great." He's very critical about his games too. So, say for example, if you think we played a great game, like if we won like 2-1, he would still say it's a bad game and we need to do better. For this run of European tour games and just all this stuff that's happening, he's like, we're not at our best. We're not 100%. We're giving up the ball, and I'm sorry about it. The team is sorry that we're losing possession and we're conceding goals. That's not okay, and we're going to do better. Which, if you look at it, we had Graham Potter beforehand, and Graham Potter's just like, sorry, like, we'll do better, I guess. I don't know. But with Zerbi, he's clear, he's concise, he's like, hey, I did bad and I will do better. Like, I know when we lost to Charlton last year for, I think, one of the cups, he was like, I'm sorry, I messed up. Like, we did poorly, the team did bad, and we're going to show people who we really are next game. And guess what? He turned it up.
Mhm.
Like, just he is very much one of those straightforward, not mincing words. He will tell people, like in conferences, especially during the transfer season where people kept asking about like certain players, and he's like, I've forgotten about them. We're moving on. We're going to focus on football because that's what I'm here for. And everyone's just like, oh my God, he hates this guy. And it's like, no, he's focused on football. He doesn't rest. Like, this dude gets red cards and yellow cards like it's candy because he wants to be involved. He wants to help his players out. But of course, there's limitations, and he doesn't like the officiating for sure. That's like one of his things that he's trying to work better on. Which there was a quote, I think, in the last couple of weeks where he said, I'm doing better with not arguing with the officiating. And he just got a yellow card with Liverpool. Like, he's never going to break out from that. And I personally admire that. I personally admire someone who's straightforward, straight to the point, isn't going to sugarcoat anything. And of course he has a long history, like, of winning too. Like, he won with Sassuolo. He was with Shakhtar Donetsk before the Ukraine invasion. So he's been doing football for a while, and he has results. And of course, he fit the style of play that the players were used to. And he and Graham Potter kind of had similar things going on. And so that's why they kind of brought him in. It's like, hey, we have these players that are already used to playing this particular style. They seem to be okay with it, and they can tweak it up some more. And so here's RDZ just coming in, and he's like, all right, this is what's happening. And keep in mind, the man knows like little English now. His English is getting better, but for a while he had his translator, like, he spoke nothing but Italian, and he had his translator just telling him how things work. But ever since then, like, his English has definitely improved, and so he's able to communicate with the players a bit better. He'll still obviously get mad in Italian because, who wouldn't get mad in a different language?
I know, right?
Um,
But
but
God knows, man.
even the players have nothing horrible to say about him. They're just like, hey, he's helped me play football better. He's helped me
Yeah.
understand how to improve my game better. I love the gaffer. He is great.
Hmm.
And just knowing that our players are comfortable with a coach just like that is a very good feeling, because not many people can gel with their coaches that easily. Like, you know, so like there's always unrest in the clubhouse sometimes,
Hmm.
with coaches. Like, people will lose the team at some point, especially if they're doing poorly. But somehow Deserby is just motivating these guys day in and day out, and that, like, just overall is a good feeling. Like I said earlier, if our coach is happy, we're happy,
Yeah.
and we hope we can keep it that way.
Yeah. I Similar to Pep. Pep is very much a straight shooter. Pep has been in the Premier League for a while, but he still gets into it with refs, and he has just learned to not directly talk about them after the pressers. I've watched every presser for the last 3 years, and I feel like that has been the biggest thing for me, understanding the club is just hearing his words, his thoughts, and then watching the matches. And then I do rewatches, and then I try, if I can, I'll listen to the players. But the players, they're so well, they don't say anything crazy. You can listen to, after a match, you can listen to three different City players, and they will basically say the same thing. It's terrifying. They're just like, yeah, we patience, patience. But that's when people say schoolboys and robots and stuff. That's when you can understand, when you'll hear, until you get like Jack on and he's just like, oh yeah, I guess I was shit. And you get the occasional people who can break through that. But for the most part, the team's full of robots. Pep said a couple of weeks ago that I don't care if I get a yellow card. I'm not on the pitch. Like, I doesn't affect the team any. So that's his mindset on helping and getting carded. It's not that big of a deal to him. In Zerbi, his man management, his tactical awareness, usually managers are better with one or the other, and then they just happen to grow. He seems solid on both. Like you said, the players seem to love him, and they do. As a outward person watching you guys, it looks like you guys have a lot of fun together, and that happened at our club. And I'm shocked when I hear other clubs not having that same energy, or I'll check other clubs like social media, and I'm like, it's lame. These people aren't fun. And I don't know. I just assume every club, everyone enjoys each other. They're all friends. They're all goofing around. But there's levels to it. And I guess that's also why I'm afraid for Brighton, is because I do enjoy you guys. I like what you guys do. And I just don't want you guys to go, because you and Newcastle, you guys, even Brentford, they're trying. But those are potentially spots for Arsenal. That's Liverpool. That's Chelsea. That's Tottenham. These are spots for people. We can get those guys out of there. And that just makes life so much more fun and gives us more reason to
No,
just like
like
chat shit on them.
yeah, I feel like, at least to me, as a person who, again, still is getting used to the football space, still is getting to know the clubs a bit better, at least in the Premier League, I feel like like a lot of the fun has been removed from football. It's always like super
Mm-hmm.
serious. And the top six to me has always been like, we're super serious. We're not fun. Like, we don't appreciate like smaller clubs getting into our space because we're cooler. We have all the trophies and whatnot. But like Chelsea, for example, we can toss Chelsea out the door. Like Chelsea's got to go. Like if we can
Yeah.
replace Chelsea in the big six, I'm all for it. Liverpool, I got to hang out with some of their fans on Sunday for our match. They're an interesting bunch.
Yes.
The bartender was nice enough. He's like, there's always one that comes into this bar. And I'm like, you guys are the only ones that are open at 8 a.m. for me to watch this game. So
Yeah.
that being said, of course I'm going to show up. And of course I told all of my DC Seagull fans, I'm like, hey, show up at this bar. It's a Liverpool bar and they're very protective of their space, but like we can still go in there. And
Yeah.
so the bartender was like, I'm going to put you next to the tame Liverpool fans because all the angry ones are upstairs. And I'm like, oh, noted. Okay. And of course, as as we tied, you just see all these Liverpool fans just with like heads in their hands, just like upset about the result. And I just looked at one guy. I was like, you know what? It's been nice hanging out with you all. I'm gonna go. Bye. Like I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah, no, they're a ravenous bunch. That is me putting it nicely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just nice to see different clubs interact with each other. I mean, like
Hmm.
I'm online. I'm okay with Liverpool. Like I don't really particularly care about most of the clubs here. I'm like okay with everyone unless you're from Chelsea. That's automatically I'm going to tell you to screw off.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace, because they are our rivals, I'm like, I should hate you, but I really hate Chelsea more. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I don't like Chelsea. They're very mean. They're very entitled.
Pompous little
I
pricks.
have, yeah, they're pretty shitty. They're
Hmm.
shitty outside and inside. And I think one of the things that I was watching last year or last season in particular was which club was going to go to shit. Was it Tottenham or was it going to be Chelsea? Because none of them had clear, definite projects. And I made a poll on Twitter at one point where I was like, okay, if you were a head coach trying to decide what project you wanted to go to, where would you go? Would you go to Chelsea, where there's money, but there's no clear like direction? Or would you go to Liverpool, where you have players, but there's still no clear direction, you know?
Mhm.
And most people were picking Tottenham because they were like, nah, I'm not going there. I'm not going to Chelsea. I refuse.
See, and
So,
oddly enough, as someone new, I would actually go to Chelsea because yes, I know Bowley is wild, but you have the chance to add the structure. You're gonna get paid, and if you get fired, you're gonna get paid.
oh
So
yeah, you're
that
gonna
that like
like
that's yeah.
we saw that with Graham Potter when they took him from us last
Hmm.
year. And that was a shock. That was a shock because you were like, who's going to come in next? Who's going to take
Yeah,
over for Graham?
yeah,
Graham was doing okay. Like, I was starting to admire the guy. Like, I'm like, all right, he seems cool. The club's cool with him. The fans are okay with him. Like, it's not a big deal. And then out comes Chelsea. Here is just like, we're just going to take your head coach and we're just going to take your entire back office.
hmm,
And so we didn't have a staff and we didn't have a head coach for a little while. And then the Queen's death happened. And so we were just like, okay, who's next? We have games to play. Like, we can't be without a coach for too long. And then in comes Roberto de Zerbi. And at first, everyone's like, who's this guy? Oh, he
right,
seems okay. Like, like everybody started doing their homework. They're like, oh, he did this, he did that. But how is this going to replicate in the Premier League? And that was our number one concern. And somehow we're doing better than before. Like we're
yeah,
all
you
just
are
like, Graham who? Graham where? Like,
legitimately like, where is he right now? Like life
right.
is. Oh,
Like, where is he? He's not even coaching. I don't even know where he is.
I
So
think I think he's just laying up, enjoying his money. He'll probably pop up on like Paramount Plus or something like that soon, doing like sideline match stuff to get his face seen again, and will become a manager somewhere. But that seems to
eventually,
be the process for every manager that kind of fell off after a couple of places. They disappear for a year or two, then they pop back up during doing like sideline or halftime things and interviews, and all of a sudden they get picked up somewhere, and it's just like every single time. Uh, let's talk about the players on your squad. Brighton's team has a new look with some new, fresh baby faces on the squad. What I will say, it does seem like the evolution of Brighton is bringing in players like Mohamed Dahoud and James Milner, players who have played around for a while from different clubs who can help the young pups. Tell me about your squad. Players of note that could give City fits offensively, maybe some players defensively that could continue Holland's scoring moves.
so last year or last season, I keep saying last year, last season. Um, we played against you guys
Mm-hmm.
and we kept, like Holland pretty much just, pocketed, which was a sight to see because we were all worried like, oh no, they're going to score a billion goals on us. They have this guy. And not really. Like we tied it up and we were all like very impressed. We were like, okay, cool. We can hold off Manchester City. Like we could do it. And I feel like if we did the same strategy that we did last season, when we play again, it'll pay off. Maybe we'll score. Albion Obsessed did a score prediction on the last episode that we did, and we were either saying that it was either going to be a tie or one of those like high scoring games. So whether or not we win, whether or not you guys win, it's going to be a match for sure, just because we have all these players layered out. So people to look out for typically is usually Kaoru Mitoma. He is one of our best guys on the field. We love him very, very much. He did a thesis on dribbling in college.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I
So,
actually read about that because
yeah.
when I was just like, what does this even mean? And then yeah, I went into like a deep dive. I was watching highlight videos and what it meant, and yeah, I'm all in on him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and he's also like very apologetic about his performance too. Like he'll do interviews with the Japanese media and he's like, I played poorly. Like I could do better. He pulled out of the Japanese national team for the international break because he was just tired. And that's one of the biggest things that we're kind of dealing with right now is because we're having such a rotating squad. Like RDZ is literally just trying to figure out the puzzle and try to establish a rhythm. And he doesn't like, you know, he doesn't like their constant rotation. He hates doing it, but he has to do it because we're doing so many competitions like in a row. We're playing 3 games a week. The players are not used to that. So they're always rotating. But yeah, Mitoma is one of my favorites. He's a Japanese like fan favorite. He's just great. I saw him when he was a substitute for the first time last season and just made an instant impact on the field. And he's kind of been starting ever since. Um, and so that's definitely someone to look out for. We recently acquired Ansu Fati, who is starting to regain his strength, which, by the way, everybody was laughing about that when they said, oh, we might get Ansu Fati. And we were just like, what? Who? What? What? From Barcelona? Why? Like, that's not going to happen. That's such a far fetched rumor. No, it was not a far fetched
And I
rumor.
honestly, the second it popped up, I was like, this makes all the sense. I didn't question it at all. And then maybe it's just being because if you look at your receipts, anything that kind of leaks about you guys, things like that doesn't really happen, at least from if it gets to me. And just the idea of Ansu Fati, it made sense. I legitimately hate you guys for that. Oh my gosh. Like just the idea of him and when we're gonna have to face you guys, I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, obviously he'll be on the left side, so he'll that's like Kyle Walker, but maybe someone will, maybe he flips. I don't know if he plays on the right. I'm not sure how comfortable he is on there, but that could be a thing, and he could terrorize Ake or Vardiol. I'm a little worried about. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, he's regaining his strength. And that's one of the reasons why Barcelona loaned him to us was that, hey, he's having confidence issues. Maybe he needs a little bit of time away from us, but he's trained up very well. He can fit your system. And Zerbi convinced him to come and join us. And somehow he's like, okay. And
Hmm.
he came, and even the Barcelona players are watching our matches. They're like, oh, yeah, I love the Premier League. I'm watching Ansu Fati play with Brighton. And it's really fun to see, like, my teammate playing. Like that stuff doesn't happen at Brighton.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh, why wouldn't it happen to you? And like, again, history, I get lore told from these guys all the time who've been following the team since like way back in the day. They're like, these things don't happen at Brighton. This is a new chapter for us. And it's very weird. So people are still kind of like, whoa, this is happening. Like European tour, win or lose, draw, everyone's just still having a great time. Um, and so Ansu Fati to me has played very well. I'm very happy that like he's gelling with the team. He's making friends and he's playing fine. Like the minutes that we give him, I know he started at least once, if I recall correctly. Um, and he's been great. He's been great to us. So I'm just very happy to have him around. Evan Ferguson is one of my top favorites. Uh, Irish striker, very young, and has so much potential. And he is also very much one of the most like he's very quiet, he's very reserved, he's very humble, which is you don't see that a lot in kids his age. Um, and he said Brighton is the place for me. This is where I want to develop. This is where I want to learn. And De Zerbi's like, hell yeah, I'm in. Like, you want to learn? I will teach you everything that you need to know. You just have to give me 100% of you. And we saw that with the hat trick, you know? Evan Ferguson is literally just flying around the field and bam, 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 just goals. And everyone's like, yes, Evan, Fergie, yeah. Um, yeah, no, if he gets into his stride and has the right players around him, that guy's just gonna demolish. And I
Yeah.
love him for it. I
And
love him for it so much.
the money
Yeah,
for Ferguson already, like the rumors, is kind of stupid. So it's just
yeah.
like, man, just hold on to him for another year and see what could
Oh,
happen.
oh yeah. No, I mean, just like I want to keep him as long as we can. Like if
Mhm.
we can drive up that price as high to the point where nobody wants him, great. We'll take it.
Okay, so let's even stay there. Are you in the my? I guess are most Brighton fans okay with the whole buy young, sell for a big price? Are some people now starting to be like, can we start holding on to some of these players? Is that sentiment starting to become louder?
It's a good 50-50 mix.
Mm.
Um, we don't mind the whole buying low and selling high type deal. I think it's just like the stability portion of it all that kind of concerns people. Um, to me, if we keep them for 2 or 3 years, great. Because of course, not everybody wants to stay at a club for their entire life. Some people want to
Mhm.
play with their like boyhood clubs. Some people want to travel the world and expand their horizons and whatnot. Like they're in the toughest competition in the world, but maybe they want to do something else. Maybe they want to step out into like the Bundesliga or La Liga or whatever league they want to join. We are very much, at least the club is very much a hey, like you can stay here as long as you like. This can be considered a stepping stone. We just want to make sure that you have the access to the best training, the best care, and that you're getting like as many minutes as you can because we know that people will leave, people will always come and go. And like I said earlier, we always have people in the back on our list like, okay, what do you want to do now? Where do you like who's next? Who's next up? Um, it's a mixed bag. For me, I personally would rather have people stay so that way they can build their confidence, they can grow. Um, but if we want to buy low and sell high, then so be it. If it's technically a player's choice at that point. Um, I learned that contracts don't mean anything in football. Everybody
Yeah.
just leaves whenever they want.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
not like in baseball where you're locked in for like a couple of years and then eventually if you want to waive off your like no trade clause you can. But it's a battle, it's a challenge. Um but I mean for the most part, people it's a mixed bag, depending on who you're talking to.
Okay. Well, how do you see this match going? I know you said some people either predicted a tie or a high scoring match. What side were you on?
I was on a tie. I feel like at this point we're kind of evenly matched. Like we have really good players, we have some weak spots. Um, if we are able to defend, which is our number one problem right now, I'm not going to lie, if we can defend better, we will be okay. But again, I wish I could be like, hey, we have like these constant starters on the field, but because of the constant rotation of players, we never know who's playing. So it's not until the day of where we can confidently look at a sheet and go, okay, this is going to be all right. Like we have these players on the field, we should be okay. I know there have been times where some of us have gone, we're done for. Like, why is this person on the field? And then it turns out we are done for. So I think it's going to be evenly distributed. I feel like it's going to be a great battle to the finish. All 90 minutes are going to get played. We're going to see some very intense football, but it's going to be a good watch for sure.
Yes. Uh,
I mean, what
I
are your thoughts? What do you think?
I am happy we should have our squad back by then. Not everybody, because obviously KDB, but for the most part, everybody should be back, should be rested, in shape. If we're going to look anything like the old us, this would be the good match for it. We have, I think, a game against Young Boys right before. I think it will be a good warm up for us. We can't keep a clean sheet to save our tails. All
Same,
the
same.
all the games that I thought were going to be high scoring, or I thought we were going to score. I don't know. I don't expect high scoring because I haven't been seeing it from our club. Halan is struggling mightily, and it's is becoming not. Oh, it's a worry for him, not for the club, because Alvarez, Foden, and everybody else is doing their thing. It's just waiting for him to start chipping in, and then we can keep going. But it's a long process. Pep said before our match against Arsenal, our biggest goal is Champions League in October. It's not this match. So, and that was what I was saying when we recorded that Sunday after the match was, yes, we lost Arsenal off of a deflection. Cool. The Arsenal fans want to make it something more than it wasn't, then go for it. But I don't know if you guys want to be second place winners of, because they're still behind Tottenham. So it's just like, why are you celebrating so hard? You're still in second. You're ahead of us. You beat us after the first time in 12 years, but you're still losing from your real competition, Tottenham. You guys have basically won just as much as each other right now. Like the Audi Cup, Carabao Cup, they're the same thing. Actually, that's a lie. I love the Carabao Cup. I very much wanted to win it, and I am the only one on our show that I'm like, please win the Carabao Cup, and they're just like, can we not play this? Just shut up. Put more respect in it. It's every year. That's what I say every year. I'm like, we need to respect the Carabao more, and people are just like, no, shut up.
I mean, that's the same thing with us. We lost it to Chelsea, and everyone's like, "Oh, we lost a Chelsea game," but hey, good for them. They're gonna win a Champions League now. Yay! Like we were just like, okay, good job. Now we're out. And like I know for us, we just turned off the game because we just didn't care. We didn't care. We were just like, okay, that's not the Europa League though. Like we have the bigger games to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
This Carabao Cup, we don't really particularly care for. We're just like, all right, cool. That's one less thing to worry about. Because our players are tired. I'm just gonna put that out there. They're tired. Like
Oh
Mitoma's
yeah,
out. Yeah, Mitoma's out because he was in poor condition, and the national team was like, "Hey, we're gonna take him," and he's like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm bowing out of this one. I'm exhausted." Lamptey injured, and he pulled out of his team because he's also exhausted. Um, I'm hoping that not only the team is training for games or whatever, but they're also taking a break. Like everybody legitimately needs a break.
that's Pep's big thing is the players voluntarily coming in to also get treatments, but he is very big. That's what he hates about the games. If I have games every 3 days, when do we train? When do we practice? He's like, because they have the game the day after, they rest, and then maybe we'll come back and we'll talk, but no one's running, no one's doing anything. So that's why we struggle sometimes with inconsistency, and you will experience it also. I became a City fan in 2001, actually, and it was specifically because they were this bad team. I mean, this was actually a fun season, but I was going through FIFA and I saw Division Two and Manchester City, this cool blue emblem, and I was like, oh, there's a whole other club in Manchester. I didn't even know that. My whole thing was always moving any like starting from the bottom and moving your team up, and that's what I always did. Was hey, City not the best. Let's sell some players. Let's grind. Let's play every single match and take out the top people. It's been such a fun experience. I remember the first time playing in European football, and I was just like, "This is so cool! We're playing Real Madrid. We're playing all these teams. Like it truly." I loved every moment, and that is also why when European football fans try to come at me for being American, I'm like, "Nah, bro. I grinded. I was watching. There are so many Fox Sports Gold, NBC Sports Soccer. There have been so many different versions of football that I've had to try to take in. I've spent $60 on NBC Sports Gold, and I think they played like 3 matches on it all season. I have had the same struggles and woes that you English fans have because they can't even get their stuff on television. I just wish, especially with the way that English football is embracing the money because they're taking all these American owners in. We really need to start finding where we understand each other more because the only way change is going to happen. Like with these players feeling exhausted, they need to come together with a players union. Every single time I talk about it, Pep even said it. The players need to come together. Other fans, European fans, they're like, "You're going to let down your team," and blah blah blah. That's a mindset that holds the players down, though. No, that in theory, this is a national team. This is the best of the best. If one player, yes, it will hurt, but this next person should be able to step up. It's a national team. Take those chances. It just is what it is. Everybody needs to adjust. Your teammates need to understand and support you. If they're hating you for that, their own mindset is whack because they should be like, okay, you rest. Go ahead, Mbappe. You sit. Now I get to start. Like that's how it should be. Next man up. And until that collective mindset changes, these players are just going to keep getting ran to the ground.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it sucks too because they're so talented.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I noticed in the transfer season is that these player agents are crazy. Like these
Yes.
agents are insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like Manuel Sierra definitely running the show for Caicedo, and I think that they're both horrible people now. But just the agents over here just like trying to get money grabs for people, like trying to use sob stories to like get teams to buy their players, and it's just it's kind of heartbreaking to see. And as a Latina, for example, like I understand the struggles that they go through in their home countries, like
Mm-hmm.
they're not rich by any means necessary. They're literally grinding it out for their families, you know, and they give back to their families when they go back home.
Yes.
Like, I think, I forgot who, but someone on our team bought their parents a new house with the money that they made in England. They're just like, hey, like my parents helped me realize my dreams, and here I am going to reward them with a brand new house because they've been in the same place for like ever, you know? And it just like these agents are just taking so like they're taking so much advantage of like these players and trying to show them off, and it just doesn't sit well with me, and I feel really bad because these guys are just like some of them are really quiet, some of them are really loud, and like they don't really match per se.
Yeah.
um and just contracts again, I'm still surprised that people don't honor contracts. Like people can just take like coaches away like in the beginning of the season, people can like get sacked. It just the system definitely needs to change. Like looking at it from an American like fan perspective, you have the MLB, you have the NFL, you have the NBA, you have the NHL, and they all have like yeah, they have really bad agents, but at the same time, they have unions to protect that.
Mm-hmm.
They have like when baseball was going through their little like shutdown bit during the 2020 COVID season, they were constantly arguing like, "Hey, pay us for this many games," and MLB was like, "No." Like they basically kicked off most of the minor league roster because they couldn't pay them, and
Mm-hmm.
like agents were starting to step up, but the players union was like, "No, if you do that, you're violating like a bunch of the rules that are in place." It's a very fine line to straddle, but I really want these players like for years to come to be protected, to make sure that they have like protections in place so that they can keep playing football, and
Mm-hmm.
they get like I'm sure that they get like all the treatment that they need for their injuries and whatnot, but we need to step it up a little more.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that they're really, really taken care of.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, final question before we get out of here. How do you see the rest of the season going for Brighton? Do you see any trophies? Maybe where do you see Brighton finishing in the Premier League?
Trophies. I'm gonna go with probably not. And I'm being honest about this because again, we're just doing so many games in a row with the Europa League. I'm pretty sure we're still in like the FA Cup running, and then just the Premier League in general. It's like there's so much stuff going on. I think that we're gonna probably finish the same that we did last year. It's either gonna be between sixth or ninth. Being top of the league, this is the first year that they've done a bunch of games in a row, and I think it's going to come in time. I don't think we're going to win the league this year. It may be like in 2 years, maybe in 3 years. It really just depends on the rest. This year is basically going to set the tone for future years to come. So, even if we crash out of the Europa League, which I hope not, I hope that we can, bypass like the group stage and get into the knockouts. But even with that little experience that we had, it's going to help us out. It's going to be like, hey, so we got to experience this type of competition. We now understand what not to do. We've now seen what other teams outside of the country are doing. We need to adapt. We need to do better. Um, and so I'm thinking either between a sixth or a ninth finish, no trophies, at least for right now. It
Mm.
could change. It could
Yeah,
change at any
of
point in
course.
time. But like, we're still going to be aiming for at least the top six again. That's my prediction.
Good, good. I just wanted to hear that because, like I said, high hopes for you guys. I'm a positive. I'm looking forward to what Brighton will be doing in the Premier League. Shady Gang, once again, please give it up for our wonderful guest. Yes, thank you for coming on. I really do hope you enjoyed yourself. And please plug yourself, plug Albion Obsessed. Please.
Yeah. So my handle on Twitter is at underscore Soni M, Sonim. I'm very much on Twitter all the time, very interactive. So feel free to just like say hi, ask me questions. I talk about basically anything and anything I want on there. I'm not strictly to football. I'm definitely a Washington Nationals fan. So you will see sports for me a lot from time to time. And please also follow Albion Obsessed at Albion Obsessed everywhere. We are a 10 group little team. We're always podcasting about like the match. We're always like willing to interact with people. We're a great bunch. And it's mostly comprised of English folks from Brighton that live all over the country. There are two Americans, me and Dagan, who recently got folded into the mix. And we recently just added an Australian. His name is Phil. He's very much into
Hey,
rugby and stuff. So yeah,
hey.
we are a very big group, but we always love talking about football. And there's definitely a lot of shirt collectors. So if you're into shirt collecting, hit them up.
Dope. Well, Shady Gang, I appreciate you. You have a great rest of your day. You know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang.